Hello there, it's Jaymz Bee. Welcome to my vodcast, my visual podcast, and my guest coming up in a little bit is George Koller. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He's just an amazing musician, producer, and human being. One of my favorite people. He is a culture hero. He does so much for musicians in this country and around the world. So we're going to talk to him. But first, some listings of what's happening in Toronto and some thank yous to my sponsors, Barbarian Steakhouse. Sure, it's a steakhouse, but have you had their salmon, their tuna, their lobster? Oh my. They also do a perfect croquette Jacques. I don't know if you've had that, but it's delicious. Anyway, 7 Elm Street. Go check it out, Barbarian Steakhouse. Also, barberfinancial.com. Paul Barber, he's the man with the plan. Do you want to make money? Do you want to invest money? Put some away, look after your staff. There's a million things that people need to know. He knows them. So call Captain Paul and check out his site, barberfinancial.com or .ca. And thanks to all my friends at Patreon. This site is really helpful. You can donate $5 or $10 a month. Probably won't hurt you too much, and it'll certainly help me. So little bits everywhere kind of makes things cool. So if you want to donate, help me out. I'm a freelance person just making things up as I go, and it's helpful. Okay, that was a pretty shitty pitch. But you know, Patreon's good. Okay, I want to get to the listings. I'm too excited about concerts coming up. First of all, checking out Hughes Room Live website. Unbelievable. They have Tin Pan North. And these are super famous, beloved tunesmiths. That's a Now Magazine word. Tunesmiths. They write songs, and they're good. David Celia, Joan Besson, Wendell Ferguson, Sylvia Tyson, and more. And it's all happening tomorrow night over at Hughes Room Live. Also on Sunday, Manuel Valera Trio. This guy's an amazing piano player. He's joined by Mark Whitfield Jr. on drums, Roberto Acapinti on bass, and I just dropped something on my toe. Excuse me. Yeah, that's my little board so I can move around and read things without having to be close to my computer. That's how sausages are made. All right, what else is coming up? Tuesday, May 28th, Sing, the Toronto Vocal Arts Festival, presents songs and stories of migration. And then on the 30th, Vernon Reid is sitting in with Aubrey Dale's new band, 13 Go. It's a new record, it's a CD launch, it's a concert. And Vernon Reid from Living Colour, I remember seeing that band open for the Rolling Stones, and I was a fan ever since. What an amazing guitar player. So that should be a lot of fun. And on the 31st, Jane Siberry is at Hughes Room. She's been in Australia and New Zealand and all around North America, and she'll be at Hughes Room on the 31st. So all the stuff there, hughesroomlive.com. Lots going on at Jazz Bistro. Tonight, The North are at Jazz Bistro tonight and tomorrow. Mike Murley, David Braid, a really cool Scandinavian rhythm section. They won a Juno for the album, and it's pretty trippy and groovy, and I think you'll really like it. You'll love the food, you'll love the music. jazzbistro.ca. 28th, Claudio De Rose and Roberto Acapinti, there he is again, celebrating the album 496 Huron. So it's a concert, it's a CD launch, and it's at 8 o'clock. And also, this week coming up, Arnold Farber brings his vibes to Jazz Bistro. So check it all out, jazzbistro.ca, at lula.ca. And they have their global after-work party right now, tonight. 6:30 doors, 7:30 live music. First, it's Giovanna Correa. Okay. And then Salsa Saturdays and Nomatica on Sunday. That's music of gypsies, Arabs, and Jews. Oh my. And then later in the week, Speaker Slam, world music, a poetry night. They just book amazing stuff at Lula Lounge. So check out lula.ca and always get there early for food. It's not expensive and it's delicious. I don't want to forget the Rex Hotel. 19 bands they're booking in the next week. Triple Berry Ensemble. I saw them last Saturday. They're on Saturday at 7 p.m. They're really cool, and they have very different tones, very different ways of approaching jazz. They come together and play solid, and then they go off and solo in completely different ways. It's really cool to watch. And the crowd went banana cuckoo last week. So 7 p.m. for the Triple Barry Ensemble. And that's baritone sax, in case you're thinking you're going to see Barry Elms and Barry Romberg and other Barrys. No, it's not that. John McLeod's there this week. Terry Parker is there this week. So much going on. And now over to Old Mill, Toronto, the Homesmith Bar, cute little bar. All the shows are 7:30 to 10:30. No cover, $20 minimum. Fantastic bartender. And good food too. Ted Warren is there, the Warren's Commission. He's a great jazz drummer. Doesn't play around town that much, so it's a rare treat to see him. Sharon Smith is there tomorrow. Carol McCartney coming up next week, Jeremy Ledbetter, and Bonnie Brett, another rare appearance from someone really, really great. So all the information there is at oldmilltoronto.com. Click on events, and you'll get the Homesmith Bar. Now, George Koller's coming up. Most people think of him as a bass player. He is a multi-instrumentalist. He plays so much music. He produces so much music. One of the busiest musicians of any genre in Canada, no doubt. He's traveled the world spreading his cosmic love. He's just so full of positivity. He has such a good work ethic. There's very few people in the world I'd rather work with than George Koller. He is at the top. I call it Agabatae. It's spelled Agaabatae. It stands for as good as anyone, better than almost everyone. You can also use this for whiskey. As good as anything, better than almost everything. Anyway, he's top shelf and he's coming up. He's working on something new with Saina from Siberia. It's called Songs for Gaia, and it's showcasing Monday, May 27th. At Trinity St. Paul Center. $20 to get in. Students, pay what you can. He wants people to see this music. It is jaw harp, throat singing, a little bit of sax, and a whole lot of bass. It's going to be magical and surreal and very spiritual. So you can get the information at, well, where can you get the information? Well, check out Trinity St. Paul Center. That's where you can get the information. Monday, May 27th, 8 p.m. So let's go see him right now. Ladies and gentlemen, George Koller. George Koller, welcome.
Thank you, James.
Tell me, oh wait, here, we'll start here.
Yeah.
Okay, here. George Koller, welcome.
Thank you very much, James.
So tell me, what is with the Secret Space Program?
The Secret Space Program. Well, that's the name of my last CD, of course. And I'm into space things very much. And my band is now going to be called Secret Space Program. But most importantly, I'm doing a show with Saina from Siberia, the indigenous artist, and she has her point of view from the ground, and I am the astrobassist with my point of view from outer space.
This new project sounds amazing. Tell us about Saina and this amazing throat singing that happens in Siberia.
Well, there's throat singing, and then there's the harp, the mouth harp, which they call the komis, which is super important to them, and I have one with me here. I can demonstrate later. Mm-hmm. But there's even a museum, a komis mouth harp museum in Yakutsk, Siberia, which I've been to, that has thousands of them from around the world. Every culture has their version of it, but in Siberia, it's super important. She's a wonderful singer. She's known in Russia, all throughout Russia, because she did a version of The Voice there in Russia, and she was one of the judges, one of those TV shows. So she's known as that, but she's also known as an indigenous ethno singer, they call them. She sings in 22 languages, and she's a powerhouse.
Wow. Now, can you tell our viewers where you met her and a little story about that?
Great story. It was actually at one of Jaymz Bee's soirees that I met Saina, and I remember that she came with one of her friends from Russia. You introduced me. She had her jaw harp with her. I was there. In fact, there were two bass players there at the time, Ross McIntyre and myself, and we both bowed long tones on the bass while she did her thing. And from that point on, Her and I developed a long-standing relationship, recorded a couple albums together.
You went right into the studio with her within a week of meeting her, didn't you?
Absolutely. That was set up by Igor Vrebek and Ken Worth, who produced it. We just went into the studio without even talking. We did an hour's worth of music, and Igor edited it down to a 45-minute CD.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You've done this a lot with performers, where you meet someone and within a week or a month, you're in a studio with them. This is something you like to dive in when the moment is ripe, don't you?
Yes, that's been my experience as a music producer. You've got to get the sweet spot. Even, Miles Davis, for example, knew that intrinsically. Like, you've got to capture that moment when it's fresh, almost like meeting someone for the first time. You're never going to reproduce the excitement and thrill of that first communication. If you can capture that, that's amazing.
Now, back to Saina for a moment. Where are you going to be performing, and what's coming up in the near future?
Okay. Well, I'm really excited about we're doing 3 concerts, Saina and I. It's called Saina and Geo. The first one is at Trinity St. Paul's, Jean Lemon Hall, here at Spadina and Bloor, and that's on May 27th. And that's a Monday night. And the great thing about that is students are free, or pay what you can. And general admission is $20, or whatever you can. That hall is beautiful. The acoustics are amazing. The audience is going to be able to have a silent, meditative moment to enjoy space, enjoy sound. And my great friend and master musician, Perry White, is joining us for that concert. You'll be able to hear him resonate his beautiful saxophone in that hall, and hear him. He'll be able to hear himself like he's never heard himself before, and we'll be able to hear him. So it's going to be a combination of indigenous and freestyle music. Then we have a day off. Then we're in Waterloo at the Jazz Room with Mark Mosca, the steel pan player, as our guest.
Wow.
And then the next day we're at the Paul Moran Gallery in Alton, Ontario.
So these are really interesting venues, and they are all venues that really say listen up, right? You're going to listening rooms.
Exactly. I mean, this music is I don't know, it has a spiritual element in that Saina has her deep roots in the indigenous ancestral stories and songs. I have my Canadian freestyle background, and when we meet, we have a dialogue that goes over the North Pole from Greater Russia to Greater North America, and we speak something that is reminiscent of jazz and maybe the Inuit culture. There's a bit of that vibe there, the Mongolian throat singing, the mouth harp, all there to create something new, and maybe also to help bring global awareness to the forefront, because we're in that time right now where you see we have to take care of the planet.
Might as well bring the world together.
Yes.
Fix it together.
Fix it together and have fun doing it.
Yeah. Now, tell me about your love of the bass, because you play so many instruments, and a lot of instruments I can't pronounce. When did you fall in love with the bass?
I fell in love with the bass, I think, when I went into a music store, and they used to have those big amplifiers called custom amplifiers with the pads on them. And I picked up a Raven bass or something, and just the sound alone was enough to attract me. I got one, I practiced in my bedroom for hours, turning the radio channels over and over again and trying to pick up by ear bass lines, melodies, counter lines, whatever. Did that for hours. And then, an important moment, in junior high school, a string program was created. This is Edmonton, Alberta, in the rich days of when money supported music in schools. And the teacher just randomly put us on an instrument. I had a viola, and I looked at the bass over there, and I thought, oh, I need to do something. I need to be in the bass, not the viola, as much as I loved the viola. I had 25 cents in my pocket. I ran over to the guy and said, hey, you want to switch with me? You play viola, I'll play bass. He said, yeah. So I bought a career for 25 cents. So that explains the bass story. And later on, in years following, that same teacher showed me a CD, or an LP cover with Ravi Shankar and Yehudi Menuhin, East Meets West, and that was a pivotal moment for me. I went into exploring Eastern music and how Western and Eastern can meet and what can happen there.
Right, because your sitar playing is unlike most people who weren't born in that culture. You really have a reverence for that music, don't you?
I have a reverence for it, and I know that one would have to spend a lot of time, decades, to go deep into the classical world and become that kind of sitar player. So rather than, I touched on 3 or 4 instruments, sarod, sitar, tambura, and dilruba, and just brought my own feelings and mood to those instruments. I don't pretend to be a great classical player of Indian music, but I know the feeling, and so I can demonstrate that.
Somewhere along the way you started working with all kinds of different musicians. Lorena McKennitt comes to mind. What was that like?
That was amazing. Because I came on board just as she was moving from cassettes in bookstores and playing at St. Lawrence Market all the way to a 10-year path of huge concert halls around the world. So I was right in that spot when I played with her mostly. And I introduced her to some of the Indian instruments, and they became an important part of The Visit and a few of her other albums. And I even went to Peter Gabriel's studio and recorded with her there and met Peter Gabriel. And
Now, what was that like, meeting Peter Gabriel?
The best, because I didn't know I was going to meet him. I was there to do a Lorena McKennitt album, and I got off the plane, and Lorena said, "Can Peter borrow you for the afternoon?" And I didn't know what she meant. Peter who? Peter Gabriel. And so I ended up recording a tune with him. Just
So from Peter Gabriel to Ian Tyson, you also played on some country music.
Oh yeah. When I was living in Calgary, Tommy Banks recommended me for Ian Tyson. He was looking for a bass player. And there's a great story there, because when I first went to his ranch, I was in my full-out hippie days, so to speak, long blonde hair, beads, Indian shirt, and Birkenstocks. But I was a well-known studio player, but still I had that look. And I went in and into Ian's ranch, and all the cowboy musicians are sitting in there with their mustaches and their snuff and their dark jeans and their cowboy boots, and they looked at me like, "Oh man, who's this dude?" But when we started playing, they accepted me because my Zen headspace actually was perfect for country, folk country cowboy songs, because you needed to use a lot of space and select each note very carefully and don't do any more than necessary. So they like me.
Wow.
And Ian's amazing. He's one of the best historic voices that Canada has ever produced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how about Dizzy Gillespie?
Dizzy Gillespie, that was in Calgary as well with a big band. And the thing I remember about him was not only his amazing musicianship, but the way he counted in a tune. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Almost like sweeping.
Wow.
I don't know.
That's
It's a cool memory, right?
It is a great memory. Yeah. You played with Molly and Holly, Molly Johnson and Holly Cole. They're both so gifted. They're both so important to Canadian jazz, but they're both so different. How different is it when you work with one singer to another, as far as touring especially?
Oh yeah, I'm adaptable. I have a mutable. I can adapt to many different situations. Molly, of course, with the beautiful texture and natural voice, singing ever since she was a child, and I worked with her a lot in the Doug Riley days and Montreal Bistro. In fact, I produced Molly's first cassette. Yes, and that was beautiful. And of course, I've toured with Holly Cole for 25 years, and she's amazing. She's also, the thing that people don't know about Holly is that she's actually an amazing arranger, because I've done so many rehearsals with her and so many sound checks and so many things. People don't know that she's behind a lot of those cool arrangement ideas that make the early trio days and now the remaining days with the full band. She has always amazing ideas, and she's probably in the best place I've ever seen her in terms of her voice power and presentation.
And you're right, the arrangements are unlike anything. Every time you hear a song, it's a Holly Cole song, no matter who wrote it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
she's
quite
established.
amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
When you're doing session work, do you have anything you do specifically to prepare? Anything that maybe either a habit or good luck or anything like that?
Session, yeah. Yeah, anything I do to prepare. Not necessarily. I just have to make sure, like the practical things, you have good strings on, fresh strings, you have your tuner, you listen to what you need to know beforehand. I think when you're in the studio on session, you have to be ready to adapt to any possible change. You have to be able to, sometimes you're getting charts that are written by people that don't have experience writing charts, so you have to use your knowledge to add what needs to be. Also, you want to play, usually simple is best in studio work, although you want to add maybe a little personality where you can. I don't know, every situation is different, James.
But you don't have a thing where you have a bubble bath the night before, or you have a peace pipe, or like anything like that. That's
not so much for studio, but I do have a gesture that I do for live before going on stage, and that's kind of a, which kind of is a physical kind of like, go do it. Okay? Yes, exactly. It's like a little charge to the heart kind of thing.
You spent many years with the Shuffle Demons.
Yes.
Traveling so many places. What is maybe one of the crazier things that happened? I mean, Spinal Tap has nothing on the Shuffle Demons because you could play any country and things are so different. What's a crazy memory you have?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is playing in Estonia, and just before certain changes in the Eastern Bloc and Soviet Union, I think the ruble was about to be non-usable anymore right at that time. So I have a memory of us, they couldn't pay us in Canadian dollars or anything like that, so they gave us like stacks and stacks of rubles. Like literally it was like a sack, like as if we had just been to a bank, like we poured it all out, like in all kinds of denominations, we poured it all out on the bed. And of course we couldn't take those rubles with us, because they would have meant nothing outside. So instead, we spent the last 2 days in Estonia buying stamps, buying anything from some of the local people that could use that money for something. Mm-hmm. And in return we got maybe some kind of rare stamps or coins or artifacts, that kind of thing.
Right. Just buying souvenirs because the money was no good otherwise.
Exactly. That's an amazing. And one other great memory is Cuba, 1992 Havana Jazz Festival. When I found out that Flora Purim and Erto were going to be there, I was freaking out. I told Richard Underhill, she's like, I'm a super fan of Flora Purim. I can't believe we're going to be in the same festival together with Shuffle Demons. So later we were there in Cuba. I was in a shuttle van from a venue going back to the hotel all by myself, and I happened to have a bottle of rum and some plastic cups. I don't know why I did, I just did. And all of a sudden, Flora Purim and Erto walk on the shuttle bus. And I'm like freaking, my hero. And her husband, who was also a hero. But I introduced myself. Hi, I'm George. I'm from Canada. I'm from the Shuffle Demons. And she says, oh, you're George. She says, I was talking to Richard Underhill from the Shuffle Demons at the bar there. He said, you're in love with me. Right in front of Erto. And I'm going, oh, yeah, yes, it's a big love, universal love, yes. He says, it's okay. He has his girlfriends too. Of course, they were just teasing me, making it look like I was, creating a whole situation. The best.
Beautiful.
That's a good memory, right?
That's a really good memory. Now, you've been doing stuff also for, I can't even think of how many, but David Clayton Thomas for quite a while?
Yes, 3 albums. Maybe 12 years of playing. I produced 3 albums, co-produced with him 3 albums, Canadiana, Mobius, and Combo. And, I had so many great times together. It was phenomenal. It was a real treat, yes.
Yeah. And doing your own record now, your Secret Space program.
Yes.
What are your plans for the immediate future? You have 1 album out already.
that one. I've also got Music for Plants, Animals, and Humans from before. Right?
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Okay, now I that record won a contest with HMV, and it was way back in the 80s, wasn't it?
Yes, called the Fresh Blood International or National Contest.
And there were thousands of demos from across Canada, and your crazy, spiritual, freaky instrumental record won out of any genre.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel? How do you think that came about?
I have no idea. I mean, I have no idea.
Smart judges, for one. Very open-minded.
Yeah. It was an interesting time, too, because I was alone. That was not a dark time, but a dark-ish time where I was alone in a windowless studio. Marriage had fallen apart. I was rebuilding. Didn't know what to do next, and I get the phone call from the president of HMV Canada. And by the way, I entered that cassette at the last minute. I had like maybe a $50 bill. I took a cab there, a cab back, and entered it at the last minute. So a month later, I get the call from
Paul Alofs, head of HMV,
and he says you've won the contest, and so that meant albums all across the country, feature displays, and it was a great lift.
I listened to that record nonstop for years. I still have a copy of it that works. That to me is an amazing story, that world music, out of all the genres and all the demos they had, that was the record that went across the country. And that probably did really catapult you in a solo career, having the confidence to do a lot of things, right?
Yeah, it just made me feel like, okay, you don't have to worry about whether what you're doing is good or bad or whatever. Just keep doing it, and maybe someday along the line there'll be acknowledgement, and maybe not, but you're doing okay.
Yeah. Now, you're producing so many records. You do a lot of work at Number 9, don't you?
Yes, that's one of the main studios I work with. I have a great relationship with George Rondina and Bernie Cisternas there. Yeah.
What makes a great studio for you? What do you require to walk into a studio and go, I can work here?
A great piano, which they have. A great board, which they have. Great microphones. And then, beyond that, there has to be a comfort and professionalism, and then the results. Also, working with Bernie Cisternas and myself, we tend to make the performers feel relaxed. They can sing. You have to have producers and engineers that somehow disarm the nervousness, and that's one thing that we pride ourselves in having. And then the results. I tend to, when I'm producing people, I help them after it's done. I help them get it online. I help them with their artwork. I help them with their liner notes. I help them with their royalties, like mechanical royalties. There's a lot of things that people need to know, and I don't mind giving them that input. And so, yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And especially when it comes to packaging, marketing, what do you do once your record's done? It's nice that you hang out and you have years of experience on what works and what probably doesn't work.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a lot of counseling and a lot of psychological, motivational stuff. And also, I try to help an artist, whether they're new, intermediate, professional, or even older, that are just doing it as a vanity project, which is great too. I try to help them see what their place is in the whole scene, and then magnify that for them.
Do you consider yourself a Buddhist? I know you have so much spirituality in your music. I'm wondering how you would define that, or if you can define that.
It's a tough one because I'm raised one way, but then you learn all the things that you want to seek out throughout your life. So I would say that the way I was raised is one hard drive, but then I added 21 other hard drives of information from around the world to that hard drive. So I can't say that I'm any one thing, but probably a Zen Buddhist type of thinking is close to my way of thinking.
And embracing that means you can embrace other things, because Buddhism isn't by itself. You can be a Buddhist and believe in all kinds of other things.
Sure, yeah. But I totally love all the points of view, and I remain open, because even with a Zen Buddhist kind of headspace, you can see another religion now totally differently from a new from a new vision that you have. Oh, I see those symbols that I didn't see before, or I see that meaning that I didn't see before.
What are your weirdest things in Siberia? What is the weirdest things that happen? Because you were in Siberia,
Yes.
which is something probably most people don't go there on purpose. They're sent there. I'm saying that as a joke.
Oh, yeah.
But there aren't a lot. It's not a tourism capital. Tell the story of how you got to Siberia.
It's a great story. Saina, who I'm working with in this next month, emailed me and said, hey, you know, I'm doing my 20th silver anniversary concert in Yakutsk, Siberia. This is a concert where they're celebrating her for all her work in all the different fields. And I thought to myself, well, that's April, whatever. I thought, oh, yeah, right. As if I could go, right? But then I was on a Laila Bialy Swedish tour that landed just before her event, a week before. And I thought, okay, I can make this work. I just asked Laila if I could extend my return flight from Copenhagen. And then from Copenhagen, I went to Moscow, and then another 8-hour flight all the way to Siberia. So basically, I did the Laila Bialy tour of Sweden, but extended my... Okay, so I snuck it in. I could do it. And the most amazing... And Saina said, you're coming. I can't believe it. So I was playing with her there. But I had a week prior to her show. And she says, what do you want to do in that week? And I said, if possible, show me everything about your culture. Or at least introduce me to the where I can learn.
So now you're in
Yakutsk.
Yes. And what happened once you got there?
Well, as she said she would, Saina set me up with a whole bunch of cultural things, and that included going to the museum that had all the jaw harps from all around the world, and the head museum guy was heavy. He started playing one of them. He was looking at me like this, like almost like he was doing a diagnosis of my spiritual being while he was playing the thing. It was heavy. Okay, I can't. And then so I went and did that. I saw a whole bunch of dancing with shamanic medicine dancing and orchestras. I saw the Diamond Museum. There's diamonds like crazy in that part of the world. So there's some wealth there too. And then the deepest part was I had a 3-hour session with the Siberian shaman at his home with fireplace burning in front of me, and he had a translator that had never seen this before, even though she's from there, and he had me screaming into the fire, like literally screaming, and he said, no, like this. So we were screaming out whatever he wanted me to scream out. I was screaming it into the fire, and it was burning up, and he took me through all these things. It was amazing. He had his outfit on, and things were jingling and shaking, and he took me all the way to childhood. I guess one of the things they do there in that culture medicinally is to kind of erase the tape and take you back to when you were just a baby and feel that feeling again. And then you come out clean. Yeah. But that's a long story. I'm giving you the short story.
That's right. But that's your trip to Siberia.
That's just 3 days of it, okay? Then there's the four more days, whatever, and the concert for Saina, yeah.
So after that experience, after this, you would feel even closer to this music then, to the world of Siberia after going through this.
Yes, I understood it deeply more because I experienced that tundra, that kind of desolate tundra feeling. I was out there at 5 a.m. feeling the kind of crystally little wind ice blow against my face, and realized that this instrument that they had, and I did a bit more research on it, this instrument called the komas is meant to heal you and take you out of any state of darkness or desolation. When you're out there alone for hours, days, months, weeks, whatever, you're alone hunting or whatever, and this instrument would be your companion, and it would vibrate and give you some, I don't know. I think it's important that the world hear it. They may not understand it yet, but I think it's an important thing for this world. And they will probably feel it. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much. Have a great 3 shows. Thank you so much, James. All right. Cheers. Gotta love George Koller. And next week, someone else I know a lot of you already love. It's Richard Krause. He's a kind, gentle film critic. He sees bad movies so you don't have to.
That's one of his lines. I've known this guy for over 20 years, and I trust him. He'll actually tell me a movie worth seeing, and I'll go. And he's never let me down before. So, we're going to talk to Richard Crouse next week. My name is Jaymz Bee. Thank you very much, and please join me again next Friday. Bye.